Something is happening right now in the grocery aisle that most people are completely missing. The brands you have trusted for years, the ones you grab without even thinking, they are changing. Quietly, without a press release, without a headline, and in most cases without telling you a single word. I want to be clear about something before we get into this. Nobody is banning these products. Nobody is shutting down these companies. What is happening is more subtle than that. And honestly, it bothers me more because of how subtle it is. These are formula changes, ingredient swaps, quiet reformulations that your taste buds noticed before your brain did. And when you look at your grocery bill and wonder why things just feel different lately, this is part of the reason. Stay with me. Because number 5 genuinely stopped me in my tracks at the store last week. I have been buying that product for over a decade, and what I found on that label was not what I expected. Also, if you are not subscribed yet, hit that button right now, because we cover this stuff regularly, and you do not want to be the last one to know. Let's get into it. Product number 1, Kraft Mac and Cheese. This one hits a lot of people in a personal place because this is not just food for most families. It is a memory. It is Tuesday nights. It is sick days on the couch. It is the blue box that has been on kitchen shelves for generations. And Kraft has been quietly reformulating it for years. The most significant shift happened when Kraft removed the artificial dyes yellow number 5 and yellow number 6 from the classic blue box. They replaced them with natural colorings made from paprika, annatto, and turmeric. On paper, that sounds like a positive move. But the complaints started rolling in almost immediately. People on Reddit and in product review sections called the new version bland. They said the color looked duller. They said something tasted off and they could not exactly explain what it was. And that last part is the most interesting part to me, because it means the change was effective enough to alter the experience, but subtle enough that nobody could put a finger on it. I spoke with someone who works in retail distribution. They mentioned that shelf returns on the blue box went noticeably up in certain markets right around that transition period. That tracks with what consumers were saying online. In June 2025, Kraft Heinz went further and committed to removing all synthetic dyes from their entire U.S. product line by the end of 2027. They said more than 90% of their net sales already meet that standard. They described it as hundreds of recipe improvements over the years, including reductions in sugar, salt, and fat. What they did not say loudly was how each of those changes altered the taste profile for people who had eaten the same box every week for 30 years. I bought 4 boxes last month, 2 from my regular Walmart and 2 from Costco. Total was around $11. I compared the boxes side by side. The ingredient list is noticeably shorter now. Whether that is better or worse depends on who you ask. But you deserve to know it changed. If you love the classic Kraft blue box and you notice something different lately, you are not imagining it. Check your label. The formulation has shifted and it will continue shifting through 2027. Store your dry boxes in a cool, dry cabinet and they keep well for up to 2 years past the printed date. If you want to stock up a few boxes at the current formulation, this is the window to do it before additional changes come through. You have every right to know exactly what you are feeding your family. And right now, that label is telling a different story than it did 5 years ago. Product number 2, Tropicana orange juice. This one surprised a lot of people because it was not just a formula change. It was a size change, a shape change. And depending on where you shop, it was a price change too, all happening at the same time. Tropicana quietly downsized its iconic carafe from 52 ounces to 46 ounces over the summer of 2024. That is 6 ounces gone. They also changed the bottle shape entirely, dropping the recognizable rounded carafe with the crown cap for a narrower, generic-looking bottle with a plain screw top. The brand said the new bottle uses less plastic and is easier to store. But consumers almost immediately pushed back and called it shrinkflation. And in many cases, they were right. Circana market research showed Tropicana sales dropped 8.3% in July 2024 compared to the prior year. By October, that drop had accelerated to 19%. Competitor Simply Orange gained market share almost immediately. Here is where it gets worse. Tropicana suggested a lower retail price for the smaller bottle to offset the size reduction. But not all retailers followed that guidance. At some Walmart locations, customers were paying more per ounce for the new smaller bottle than they had been paying for the old larger one. I checked prices at my local store. The 46-ounce Tropicana was sitting at $4.47. That is more than I was paying for the 52-ounce version not long ago. That is not a wash. That is a loss for the consumer. And there are reports on Reddit and review forums that the juice itself tastes different. Slightly more bitter, less bright. Some of that could be seasonal variation in the oranges, but some of it may reflect adjustments made to the juice blend as production costs for Florida and Brazilian orange crops have risen sharply due to citrus greening disease and climate-related disruptions. I bought 3 bottles during a recent grocery run, 2 Tropicana and 1 Simply Orange as a comparison. Total came to about $12. The difference in volume and in flavor experience was noticeable enough that several people in my household commented without me prompting them. Fresh orange juice needs to be refrigerated and stays fresh for about 2 weeks after opening. If you are buying it for stockpile purposes, I would recommend focusing on the sealed cartons that carry a longer shelf date. The bottom line here is simple. You are getting less juice. You may be paying the same or more, and the product itself has been subtly altered in ways that loyal customers are picking up on in real time. Check your labels and your per ounce price before you grab that bottle automatically. Product number 3. Nutella is one of those products where people feel almost protective of the formula, and they have good reason to. Back in late 2017, Ferrero quietly altered the Nutella recipe. The Hamburg Consumer Protection Center in Germany was the first to notice and go public. What they found was a lighter-colored spread, more sugar, more powdered milk, a reduction in cocoa content relative to the overall mix. Ferrero pushed back and denied fundamentally changing the product. But the color was visibly different. The taste had shifted, and loyal consumers around the world were furious. Here in the United States, the change was slightly different. American jars got an additional swap where some milk powder was replaced with whey powder. Ferrero explained it as a quality control decision. Consumers were not impressed. In 2024, Ferrero took another step and announced plans to roll out a vegan version of Nutella, replacing dairy with plant-based ingredients. That version reached some markets in late 2024. Again, the brand positioned it as expansion, not substitution. But every time a product adds new formula variants, there is pressure across the production line that can affect the original. I picked up a 33-ounce jar from Costco recently for around $8.50. That is a solid per-unit price compared to the smaller jars at regular grocery stores, which are running close to $4 for only 13 ounces. When I compared it to a jar I bought a few years back, the color difference is real. It is lighter, it is slightly sweeter. The cocoa depth is not where it used to be. A sealed Nutella jar stored in a cool, dry place has a shelf life of around 12 months. Once opened, it is best used within 3 months. The fat content can cause separation if stored too warm, so keep it out of the pantry near the stove. If Nutella is something your household goes through regularly, and you want to make sure you have the version you trust, now is a reasonable time to stock 2 or 3 jars. The formula has already moved, and more variation could come as plant-based pressure and ingredient costs continue to reshape what is inside that iconic brown jar. Product number 4. Stouffer's Lasagna OK. Comfort food, frozen aisle staple. The one you grab when nobody wants to cook and everybody still wants a real meal. Nestle has been working on what they call a kitchen cupboard reformulation for Stouffer's, and the lasagna is one of the most notable examples. They reduced the ingredient count from 19 down to 15. Gone are things like autolyzed yeast extract, carrageenan, dextrose, and bleached wheat flour. In their place are simpler, shorter label ingredients. Nestlé tested 15 different recipe variations before landing on the final one. They spent a year doing it. They said they wanted to give consumers cleaner labels and more recognizable ingredients, and that sounds genuinely good on its surface. But here is the thing about food science. Those ingredients that got removed served functions. Carrageenan was a binder. Autolyzed yeast extract was a flavor enhancer. Dextrose contributed to browning. When you remove those things, you have to compensate somehow. And the texture, the mouthfeel, the overall flavor profile shifts in ways that may or may not land for every palate. I have been grabbing the large family-size Stouffer's lasagna from Costco for years. Price on the family size runs around $12 to $13 depending on the location. It is a value buy, and it has kept me and my family fed on the nights when nobody has the bandwidth to cook from scratch. After the kitchen cupboard reformulation went through, I noticed the sauce consistency felt slightly different, thinner in some places. The cheese layer behaved differently when reheated. Not dramatically, but enough to notice. Frozen lasagna like this keeps well for up to 3 months in a standard freezer. If you go up to a deep freeze, you can extend that further. The convenience factor alone makes this worth keeping several on hand. Just know what you are buying now is not the exact same product you bought 3 years ago. Nestlé made their changes. Some people prefer the new version. Some people feel something is missing. You deserve to taste both versions with open eyes and decide for yourself. Product number 5. Tide Original Liquid Detergent. Here is the one that genuinely caught me off guard. I do not think of laundry detergent as something that changes. It is not food. It is not something you taste. You open the bottle, you do your laundry, clothes come out clean. Simple, stable. Except in September 2025, Procter & Gamble made the biggest change to Tide Original Liquid in over 20 years. They called it a boosted formula. More cleaning surfactants. More non-ionic surfactants for odor control. New perfume technology designed to make that signature Tide smell last longer on your clothes. On paper, that reads like an upgrade. And technically, it may be for stain removal. But what is interesting is how consumers reacted once the new formula hit shelves. People noticed the scent was different. Some described it as stronger. Others said it was chemical-like or overpowering, where the original scent felt clean and familiar. There were reports of new skin sensitivity reactions from people who had used Tide for decades without any issue. Review sections on Home Depot, Reddit threads, and consumer forums lit up with complaints within weeks of the new formula rolling out. One reviewer I came across said she had been a loyal Tide customer for decades and described the new formula as awful. She said family and friends were all noticing the same thing and were actively looking for a different brand. And here is the supply chain angle that matters for a lot of households. That reformulation is now replacing the old version nationwide. The product you knew is being phased out. If you have sensitive skin, use fragrance-free products, or have a brand loyalty built on that specific Tide scent and performance level, you need to know this now. I bought a large jug from Walmart last month, around $14 for the 100-ounce size. I compared it to a bottle I had picked up earlier in the year before the new formula rolled out. The scent profile is noticeably different, more concentrated, more perfume-forward. Less of that clean, familiar smell I associated with freshly laundered sheets. Liquid detergent stores well for a long time. Sealed bottles can last 12 to 18 months. Opened bottles stay effective for 6 months or more if kept in a cool, dry location. If you have a formula that works for your household and your skin, stocking up on that known product before it disappears entirely from shelves is a completely reasonable move. This is about more than preference. For people with skin sensitivities, this kind of formulation change can mean real discomfort, and they deserve to know it is coming. Product number 6, Doritos. Now I want to talk about something that has been building for years across the chip aisle, and Doritos is the best example of it. Frito-Lay, which is owned by PepsiCo, has been quietly reducing the seasoning load on Doritos, not announcing it, not putting a label on it, just gradually shifting the amount of flavor coating on each chip in a way that is subtle enough to feel like your memory is playing tricks on you. But it is not your memory. People have been reporting this on Reddit, on forums, in review sections for years. The most consistent complaint about Cool Ranch Doritos is that the chips arrive underdone in terms of seasoning, lightly coated, almost like they ran short. One forum commenter put it this way: they used to have to wipe their hands on their jeans because the ranch coating was so thick. Now they finish a bag without a single orange or blue-tinted finger. That is not the same product. On top of the seasoning reduction, Doritos chips have also gotten thinner over the years. The chips are larger but less substantial. The experience of eating them has changed, and again the change happened quietly without a formal announcement. This is a textbook example of what the industry calls shrinkflation, applied to flavor rather than just quantity. You still get the same bag weight, You still see the same bag size, but the experience per chip has degraded. I grabbed 2 bags last month. The standard 9.25-ounce bags ran about $4.79 each at my local grocery store. I also picked up a large bag from Costco for comparison. When I laid a chip from the newer bag next to one from an older sealed bag I had kept for testing, the visual difference in coating was clear. The newer chip was noticeably paler. Chips like Doritos sealed in the original bag stay fresh for about 3 to 4 months, past the printed date when stored in a cool, dry place. For stockpile purposes, the best approach is bulk bags sealed into airtight containers or vacuum-sealed bags for longer-term storage. PepsiCo has been under significant margin pressure from ingredient cost increases. When companies face that kind of pressure, the formula or the fill level is almost always where the adjustment happens first, because most consumers do not notice immediately. You noticed. That matters. Product number 7. Oreo. I want to end on this one because it is almost philosophical when you think about it. The Oreo is one of the most iconic food products in the world. The cookie-to-crème ratio is something people have debated for generations. Mondelez, the company that makes Oreos, has built an entire marketing empire around that ratio. Double stuff. Mega stuff. The idea is that more filling is more. Except consumers have been noticing for years that what is labeled double stuff does not actually look like it used to. Reddit threads are full of side-by-side comparisons, where a current double-stuff Oreo sits next to an older photo, and the filling difference is visible. Some people have measured it. The ratio may be technically the same on paper, but the filling weight and the overall cookie experience has shifted. On top of that, the cookie wafer itself has drawn complaints. Reviews on major platforms describe the wafers as thinner, less substantial, less of that satisfying snap that generations of Oreo eaters associate with the product. And there is a broader ingredient story here too. Mondelez has been working to meet cleaner label demands. Like Kraft, they are under pressure to reduce artificial ingredients, adjust formulations for sustainability goals, and manage rising input costs on cocoa, palm oil, and dairy simultaneously. Every one of those pressures pushes the formula in some direction. I bought a family-size pack from Costco for around $11. I also grabbed a standard pack from a local grocery store for direct comparison. The difference in filling density between a current double stuff and what I remember buying 5 years ago is real enough that 3 people in my household noticed before I said a word about this video. Sealed Oreos store well. An unopened package can stay fresh for up to 2 months past the printed date in a cool, dry pantry. Once opened, best to seal the tray back up and consume within a few weeks. Here is what I want you to take from this. Mondelez has been innovating aggressively with new flavors and collaborations. The Post Malone Swirl Cookie in early 2025. Seasonal limited editions constantly cycling through stores. All of that product innovation creates production complexity. And production complexity has a way of affecting the core product even when nobody officially announces a change. Check your label. Compare what you see now to what you saw 2 years ago. You may be surprised. What this all means now, step back and look at all 7 of these products together. Kraft, Tropicana, Nutella, Stouffer's, Tide, Doritos, Oreo. These are not niche brands. These are the backbone of the American grocery cart. The things people buy on autopilot. The ones that do not require comparison shopping or careful label reading because you have bought them 100 times and you know them. That familiarity is exactly what these companies are counting on. When ingredient costs go up, when sustainability mandates kick in, when regulatory pressure builds around artificial dyes and synthetic additives, the formula is where the adjustment happens. Quietly, on the side of the package in small text, with language designed to sound positive, kitchen cupboard recipe, boosted formula, new look, same great taste. None of those phrases mean what the companies need you to think they mean. They mean the product changed. They mean you are not buying the same thing anymore. And they mean the company made a business decision that prioritized their margins or their regulatory compliance without prioritizing transparency with you, the buyer. You are not powerless here. When you know what is changing and when you know why, you can make decisions. You can buy ahead of changes when it makes sense. You can switch brands when a formula no longer works for your household. You can read labels with actual intention instead of habit. That is what this channel is about. Not panic, not hoarding, not conspiracy, just information. Clear, calm, practical information that puts you ahead of the curve instead of behind it. The people who will notice these changes last are the ones who never thought to look. And you looked. That makes all the difference. If this video helped you understand something you had been noticing but could not name, hit the thumbs up right now. It tells the algorithm this information is worth sharing and it helps more people find it. Subscribe if you are not already here. We are building a community of people who shop with their eyes open and we would love to have you with us. And drop a comment below. Tell me which product on this list surprised you the most. Tell me which one you have already noticed changing at home. I read every single comment. Everyone. And your feedback shapes what we cover next. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.